We live. Big KC for the first time, and it's gonna be bully talk today, guys. So hopefully we can get more people to join in. Big up yourself, Mr. Eli Box as well for joining in, and of course, the Hound Kennel. Yeah, man, big up yourself. So we want to talk about a few things today, guys. Try to make sure that we touching base on some of the questions that always come up. I want to introduce myself first off. I go by the name of Jay Reed, Jason, Majid. Many names, but one goal. And the main goal here for our channel, for this entire movement, and everyone in the group, in the bully group, is to better the bully game, not just in St. Lucia, which is where I'm from, but also in the Caribbean. The American bully game is a very big game right now, and it's blowing up worldwide, and we have to play our part as well and make sure we're doing it right. Okay, guys? So we have a few more people joining in. Well, bless 100. Big up yourself. Leon, Labadi, big up yourself. Bless up, man. And we're supposed to have Eugene joining in as well. I want to make sure that we getting some contributions. So Mad 12 as well in the place as well. So big up yourself, guys. So I like how we starting off so far. We still kind of 1 minute in to get things started, okay? So let's see how things go. Let me see where Eugene is at. Okay. Just a moment. Yeah, big up, guys. In the meantime, maybe what we could do is, talk about a few things. I just dropped a video earlier today. We spoke about feeding rice in our dog kibble. We have a number of people, who use rice, especially in St. Lucia, Caribbean islands. A lot of people use rice and shavings and stuff in their food. It's not a bad thing, because you have a lot of people, fighting down the rice and stuff, but it's a good form of carbohydrates, guys. It's something that would encourage your dog to grow as well. But you make sure that, rice can only go that far, right? So you make sure that you add in all of the supplements you need, or if you gotta mix in, your proteins for your meat and whatnot, make sure that you're doing it the right way and you're not overfeeding the rice, okay? I know some dogs who go on it for years and years and years, and they're doing pretty well. But to be honest, sometimes you get these issues with the dogs, and you don't know what's causing it, and it could be the rice. One thing I know for sure, guys, as far as the rice goes, this is something that I learned from a Cuban vet. The rice, if you're gonna be doing rice, it's not a wise decision, for some dogs, right? Some dogs are not that sensitive, but you don't have to be too sensitive. If you're gonna be going into rice, make sure you're doing fresh rice. A lot of people like to go on warm rice for dogs and stuff, and sometimes for days and days and days. I think, if you're going to be doing that within 3 days, maybe fine. But if it's past 3 days, try not to go into that. I believe in just doing fresh rice, because you might get these, sometimes you realize your dog might have some heat spots all on the chest, all on the underbelly, and the rice could be what's causing that as well. The warm rice. I don't believe in also microwaving food for dogs as well. The same way it's not good for us, it's not good for the dogs, guys. So if you're going to be feeding rice, do it fresh. Okay, if you're not feeding rice, then kudos to you. If you go straight kibble, there's a number of ways that we could feed our dogs, guys. But I just wanted to put a video out there because a lot of people keep on getting, a fight back on the rice. And it's not necessarily a fight back, but it's just saying that, hey, you could be feeding better. But I have no problem with the rice. I personally feed my dogs basically, everything that a dog can eat. I try to not feed the same thing every single day. I might go with something, the same thing, for a few days in a row, but I try to change it up each time, So let's see here. Exactly. You see, tech done 10. Rice gives rash. And that's from his experience. And that's exactly what I was talking about, those heat spots right under the chest there. You get those red dots all under there. That's exactly what I'm talking about. My take on raw feeding, I feel raw feeding is one of the best feedings when it comes to not just American bullies, but dogs in general. Dogs have a very high demand for protein, and a lot of protein comes from meat, guys. Raw meat. The more you cooking meat actually can take away some of the nutrients that the dogs actually, their body is, demanding. The more you cook the meat, sometimes I even like parboil the meat, which is like just kind of heat it up. But raw feeding is actually, to me, the best form, when it comes to especially American bullies as well, with that kind of muscle that these dogs kind of have naturally. You want to encourage that. You don't want a lame dog, and the raw feeding can do pretty well. Make sure if you feed in raw, you don't just feed raw. Like my boy Hellhound Kennel said, the buff diet is best for bullies. I was just about to get into that. And you guys are pretty well versed as well. You do your research. Yeah, make sure if you're going to be feeding raw, that you kind of go into a full-fledged buff diet. Make sure that you're getting your percentage of your veggies in there, your fruits in there. The fruits is going to provide, that vitamin C that the dogs require. The vitamin C is going to allow the body to take in all of that calcium quite easily. So it's going to open the floodgates, to allow the vitamin, the calcium to go into the bones and strengthen up your dogs, because you're going to be getting a lot of calcium when you start having the bone in the diet as well, because a certain percentage of that buff diet is going to have to be bone. And also you have the organs as well, which is very important as well, for the dogs. So if you I actually have some information on it that I want to put on the Bloodline website, which is the product website that you see on the back there. And hopefully, educate people. It's not just a manner of, a business and making money. Those of you who know me know that I try my best to kind of get the most information out there and try to better the game. Some of you who know me, sometimes I come over to your spot and I say, hey, you know what, you make an order for some products, and I like, okay, I ask you to see your dog. There's not one household that I've been to when doing my sales that I haven't asked the person in question who I'm selling to, let me see your dog. And sometimes I watch your dog and I look for anything that I see, and I would say, hey, well, instead of just taking the goat milk, maybe you might want to get those omega 3s in there as well, because I could see that the dog has a little bit of a skin issue, and try to encourage people to do stuff. And if they don't take the product, I also give them a solution that they can use with their dogs, So it's just for the betterment of the breed, not just the breed, but dogs in general. I'm new to the channel. We'll check it out after. Okay, no problem, man. You could always check it out. We have a number of videos there, whenever you get some free time, just give a view. How do you introduce your dog to vegetables? Well, the easiest way to introduce your dog to anything is with what they already like. Like if you're going to be doing meat, for example, you see a number of these channels. One thing I always say, like I used to watch a lot of, and big up, like Bossman Vlogs and, QBN, but I look at the channels as well, and sometimes you see they just do the buff diet and everything is just laid out, in the bowl. And you wonder, like, okay, well, how the dog's going to just eat the vegetables, on the side like that? You understand? I don't believe that they do it that way for the most part. I think they actually just do it so that way you can see what's included. I think if you're going to be introducing vegetables, the dog is not a customer of vegetables, maybe don't have a liking for vegetables, you'll be able to tell right away. And one of the things that I do is, like, you try to kind of do it small, maybe chop it up in fine pieces and mix it into. So if you got the raw meat, chop the raw meat up, don't chop it into, if you have a grown dog, you don't want to chop it into very fine pieces. You want them to work the teeth and stuff, that actually helps out with, the teeth, cleaning the gums as well, so you want to make sure you don't chop it up too small, but you chop it up small, the meat too small, but you chop it up small enough so that way you can get the veggies in there kind of secretly. Dogs don't even realize that they're getting that in, and then eventually the taste is gonna, settle in their mouth. And then as they go along, that they get accustomed of that little flavor in the food. So then they get to a point where they kind of do without it. So they'll just eat it gradually. But yeah, man, you have to do sometimes things to get your dog to like stuff. Like, for example, protein powders like Gorilla Max, Bully Pro as well. You know, I haven't really had an experience with people who don't like, well, dogs who don't like the Bully Pro, but I always try to encourage, my clients, hey, don't just drop it on the food, try to mix it with a little water, get the goat milk in there so you got that flavor as well, and put it into the food. So that way the dog can gradually get into it, and you don't want to go full-fledged right away. So just like anything that you're going to be introducing into your dog diet, like if you're going to be changing kibble, you know that you have to mix that kibble up with what you were using before and gradually change. I mean, if you look at a bag of Victor, it would tell you that you have to gradually, change the dog food. So it's the same thing if you want to be starting to do a bath diet. You can still start it off with a little bit of kibble, whatever kibble you're using. If you're using rice, you still start it off with a little bit of rice. Start with the cooked meat. If you're already using cooked meat, and then you add your vegetables in, you don't cook the vegetables, you just add it in, and then you start not cooking the meat and still adding your rice, and then you start taking away the rice slowly and but surely, and then you get into your bath diet. Pastons in the pup. Okay, so that's a great question. One of the things that sometimes it's genetic, guys. So a lot of the flaws that we see sometimes it's genetic, and if it's not genetic, one of the things that I always say is that, and I experience it with my dogs as well. And I was actually talking to one of the big breeders, in St. Vincent earlier, Kimoy, about the tiles, and he was like, "Yeah, man, you realize that same thing with a few dogs. You try to avoid, slippery surfaces with your dogs, especially puppies. That's a big cause of east-west, and a lot of these genetic problems that we, not genetic, but, flaws that we see in the dogs. So sometimes the dogs do not have a genetic flaw, and it's just something that we cause, unknowingly sometimes. And it's just an uncomfortable process for the dogs, and then they try to make themselves comfortable. And just, for example, you feed a dog. I'll give you one example for the question on the pastons, but I'll give you one example on east-west, right? If east-west, for those who don't know, is basically when your dog, the front feet, basically goes east-west. That's as frank as it can be. And you could get a puppy who's straight like this, but then you see the feet start going like this and start locking in like this gradually, but you have the dogs on tiles, and you also have your bowl very low. So if your bowl is low, right, this dog is now stooping down to feed. Now if he's stooping down to feed, his feet is not going to stay, so he has to do something. Either he's going to bend these, and you cause that problem here as well, or he's going to slide in like this, and automatically that east-west is going to come in on those tiles especially, right? So try to avoid that. I'm not saying that tiles is not a good thing, I mean, it's easy to clean, but if you're going to be feeding your dog, make sure you have the food, on a higher surface. That could be one thing that could help you. But as far as the paston, guys, I mean, it's something that you can also fix, if you have any issues with it, through including like your vitamin C in the diet. That's one thing that I read, and that's what I yeah, boy. Hellhounds, Kennels, you on, because I was just about to say you can add the glucosamine as well. I actually have it at home. What I do is I buy, like, I don't even like search for anything special. I just buy the regular stuff that we get for humans. That's something that you use, older folks use as well, for the ligaments and joint pains and whatnot. So I get the glucosamine, and I actually take it and I pound it, crush it into a powder, and I just put it in a jar. And normally I just take small portions, along with the vitamin C. And also I try to include a little calcium there as well, because, sometimes it's usually a case you deal with. It's usually a situation you have with puppies. So with the puppies, I don't really go into much bone, to be honest. I mean, everyone has their own way of thinking about it. But I also don't go into much of the eggshells, as much as it has the calcium. A lot of us don't realize that the eggshells take a long time to break down, and the body might not even, in a short space of time that digestive system is working, the body might not have the time to break that down. So I always encourage people, if you're going to be using eggshells, allow you kind of want to get it crisp first, so you kind of maybe put it in a heater or something and just allow it to get a little crisp for a little while, and then you blend them together, make sort of like a dust, and then apply it. It's just like calcium powder at that point. In that case, yes, but a lot of breeders don't have the time to do that. They normally just crack the shell, crack, 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 drop that in the food, and then next few days you realize your dog is passing blood. The dog have a problem. It's just that the eggshell is sharp, and it could cut the intestines on the way down. It's not going to break down that fast, guys. Okay. Now you see, the bully talk is going so far, like we start from one point and we get into the next. So I like the way that this is going, guys. This is my first time actually doing the live, so I'm trying to see how I can get Eugene in. I'm not sure if he's in as yet. It doesn't look to. I'm not getting him on WhatsApp, so that's fine. But everything is going well so far. I'm just looking to see if we have any other questions. Hellhounds, Hellhound, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about where you from, and tell us a little bit more about your kennel. Anyone who wants to come in and join in as well, you can come in and join in, and maybe we can even, join the live as well, guys. But any other questions in regards to, the dogs themselves, the feeding as well, anyone has anything that they're concerned about, maybe I can help. I'm not a vet, but I try my best to do my best and encourage, information. Hellhound, Kennel from Guyana, big up yourself, man. Yeah, so he's from Guyana. Having pup, walking on small stones also improve past tense. Yes, that's something that I learned from one of the larger kennels out there. You get some of those small stones, rubble, and you can actually build a section in your cage, or your kennel, I should say, where you have puppies, walk on the stones. But at the same time, you also have to be including that along with the glucosamine, the calcium, the vitamin C as well. Again, guys, vitamin C is just the floodgate to allow the body to absorb, right? But yeah, that is something that makes sense. Again and again, it's just another theory. There's many theories and many ways of, fixing these things. Walking dead sand works pretty well as well. So Vinton, yeah, man, big up yourself. I was wondering when I would see you. Big up Vinton, joining in as well. Another, well experienced breeder from St. Lucia in Barbados, right? You can correct me if I'm wrong. But big up Vinton, man. Vinton is breeding, well, not breeding as yet, I guess, but you have those egg cells coming up, so look out for that as well, guys. But yeah, also wanted to touch base. Speaking of Vinton, yeah, good vibes, man. It can only get better. Question: how do you go about selecting a pup? Okay, great question. So for me, I'm guessing that question is pointed to me, right? So the way I go about selecting a pup, I first off, guys, you see that thing about the litter come out, and then these guys posting out, or the breeders post out the photos and saying, we have pups on the way, and then automatically one person say, hey, I want a female, or hey, I want a male, or oh, I want a blue this, I want a brown one, or this. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in also, when pups are just born and then you post out a picture and someone says, okay, I want that pup because it's color, right? That's just color, or maybe they see the muzzle looking a little short. These things can change in weeks, So if I'm gonna be selecting a pup, I usually eyeball a pup about 4 weeks old, like just eyeball, kind of take a quick look, try to. But in all honesty, about six weeks old. The thing about it is that we sell pups. Where we from, we sell pups at 6 weeks old. So sometimes you don't even get a chance to really choose what you want. So you kind of have to move quick sometimes. But about 6 weeks to 8 weeks old, that's when you can really start to judge and say, okay, well, this is what you get out of this dog or that dog. Sometimes you kind of, but for me, what I try to do is eyeball it at about 4 weeks, just because I want to make sure that I'm getting my pick. And that's one of the things that I want to talk about as well. As far as picks in a litter, this is something that has to be established early. So if you're a breeder one of the things that you see happening overseas is that you have people saying, hey, put down a deposit for first pick, right? Put down my deposit for second pick. So if I'm going to be buying a dog and I want to make sure that I'm getting exactly what I want, best thing to do is put down your deposit and make it very clear that, hey, I want first pick. You see where I'm going with this? So when you come up with that first pick, it could be 4 weeks, 6 weeks. At that point, if the breeder says, hey, well, at 2 months, we'll be dropping the dogs. At 8 weeks, we'll be dropping the dogs. You could make that pick, at 4 to 6 weeks, you could take your first pick out of the litter, because they will give you a time frame. Hey, 4 to 6 weeks, by 4 weeks, 5 weeks, just before 6 weeks, you should be able to make your pick from there, right? And then when it's on the 8th week, then you can draw your dog. So at least now But that didn't cover your question as far as how I go about picking, right? That's just basically the beginning, and that's one thing that I want breeders to take heed on, is say, hey, well, you know what? If you want a specific dog, if you're looking for something, put your deposit down. This dog first pick is going to be that amount, that amount, that amount. But what we have, especially in St. Lucia, is that bloodline falling off. What we have in St. Lucia is that a lot of people just sell the dogs at one set price. All the puppies go at one set price. So that's where the problem starts. You have to have a platform to work with, a certain gauge of, what's going to come out, because all the dogs are not going to be the same. For the most part, sometimes you have a very good litter and every single dog is top of the line, which is where, quality breeding comes into play. For me, I try to get a dog with a lot of nice structure. I like to look for, the posture, how the dog is standing. I look out for the rear, high rear. I try to look for those flaws early on. And sometimes you don't see it that early, but you can kind of have an idea. But the best thing is that you kind of want the owner to, if you're not physically there, you kind of want to walk the dog, at about 6 weeks, walk around, and see how it's walking, see the posture of that dog. And then you can look for the other things after, like if you want head and, the short muzzle. But I think the main thing is, how the dog is going to walk, the posture, and how it's holding up itself, the stance as well. You kind of want to look at that first and then everything else after. Exactly. Tech done. 6 weeks is crazy. Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. To be honest, guys, and I know I'm gonna get some heat for that. A lot of people just in the game to make the money fast. Just make the money and go. A lot of people in the game for that. So the 8 to 10 weeks makes sense. But realistically, the way things are going, that'll take a while to fix. I believe it still should start at least 8 weeks, and then move forward from there, 8 to 9 weeks, and then move forward from there. I don't really believe in the 6 weeks. I mean, I bought pups at 6 weeks. Usually I collect them at 7, to be honest, because I still kind of watching, because I can still back out. As long as my money in my pocket, I can still back out, because we don't even do deposits here, you understand? So it's not like I sign a contract with you that I have to buy a dog from you. So for the people who you sold dogs for me in the past, you might not like that, but the reason the dog stayed in your hands for about 7 to 8 weeks is because I still kind of looking at, what I'm working with, and I could still back out because I'm going to have this dog. You have to consider, guys, that this dog is going to be with you for years. So there's no breeder who can tell you, hey, well, yeah, what about this? What about that? There's no breeder who can pressure you into purchasing a dog. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who's going to have that dog for possibly years, and hopefully years, because you make the right selection. Yeah, well, that's the thing too. When you start, let me give you one thing as well. Another reason why dogs go at 6 weeks. The saying that all puppies look nice when they're young. That's true, because now the breeders know that they know what they're breeding. A lot of them know what they're breeding. So they know eventually, boy, that man structure going to change a little, that man mouth going to get longer, because they know they're not breeding quality, so they try to get rid of the dogs very early. And that's just a fact. I hate to put it out there like that, guys. And I'm not pointing fingers, because to be honest, I really haven't, really met people like that, because I avoid it altogether. You know what I mean? But they're going to be changing as they grow, and some of the breeders know that, so they try to get rid of it quick. So by the time you realize it, they already have your money. Yeah, it's crazy. 8 to 10 is best. But yeah, so as you can see, yeah, man, Vinton, same thing I'm saying there. Yeah, you want to put that confidence in your buyer, yeah, man. And also, you want to see you yourself as a breeder as well, like for me, like I'm establishing a kennel right now, then I myself want to see how my dogs turn out. You never know, I might want to keep one, you know sometimes you have one dog. Like I was looking at this one puppy down on the countryside, the Canaries, and at first the pup was it wasn't the biggest one, and then but as you and they all look the same, but then as they start growing, they're all pretty impressive dogs, but there was just one pup. That man was just out of control, like cow movement, just big, tough, straight feet. Everything was just perfect. You see me posting him on my channel, and I don't post any dogs on my channel, but like that pup was very impressive, and 8 weeks old. By 8 weeks, that's when you really start to see. If you had to choose a dog maybe earlier, you probably might not have chosen him. Even though all of the dogs are very impressive, but you can kind of see the difference. You understand? So, yeah, man. Let me see what we have here. Yeah. Bless up. Well blessed 100. When selling a dog, what should your contract cover? Okay, good question. So when selling a dog, what should your contract cover? I think first and foremost, you kind of want to make sure that the whoever's purchasing the dog know the background of the parents. The worst thing that could happen, is that you buy a dog, and then now in the future you want to go out and breed your dog, and then somebody asks you, okay, well, what's the lineage, what's the this and that, and since a lot of people in St. Lucia, let's just use St. Lucia, do not have pedigrees for their dogs. Like they like lost, like, okay, well, boy, I never knew who the parents are of the dogs. I know the parents, but I don't know who the grandparents are. I don't know before that and before that. So that's one of the first things you should cover in your contract, or at least let the buyer know. We don't really do contracts here. It's something that we should be doing in St. Lucia, and hopefully the rest of the Caribbean is doing contracts and providing good information to their clients. But it's something that we want to better, and that's something that I want to do on my own as well. For those of you who know, I'm going into like single registration for my dogs, but we'll go in deeper on that a little later. And that's not all the contract should cover, though, but I'm trying to many buy with actually know the parents. Well, yeah, Logic, you covered that. That's basically what I just said there. Yeah, man. Big up Logic, man, for coming in. Nisa, big up yourself. Yeah, Tech Dan also. Breeder, if you look into you might be cheating yourself. The publish was 91 at 5 weeks. Well, that's true, guys. I mean, again, same thing that I just said. 5 weeks to 8 weeks, you see difference in the dogs. So Tech Dan, yeah, man, you hit the nail on the head there. Things can change as you go along, and 8 weeks, guys. 8 weeks is a good place to start. I think we should change things for those of you in here, and for those of you who are not here, and then the guys here want to share this information. I think we should start changing stuff to 8 weeks. I mean, of course, you could start advertising your dog before, but I think 8 weeks is a great place to start, as far as letting the dogs go. And then maybe from 8 weeks, then we can grow to a 9 and a 10. You understand? But we have to start somewhere, right? Just like the registration, For those of us who know that our dogs come from a specific line, then we have to, as much as we don't have the pedigrees, on paper, we have to at least start with a single registration, just to get kicked off. We have to start doing these things. And then gradually, breeders like maybe even myself, we'll start to bring in the blood. We'll start to bring in, you know, the dogs that you guys are yearning for, in St. Lucia, in the different Caribbean islands. And again, guys, I'm using St. Lucia as an example because, in all honesty, if you look at Barbados, you have a lot of dogs out there. You fully papered up. You could track them all the way back. These ABKC registered dogs. Even in Trinidad, you have ABKC, UKC, USBR registered dogs. There are a lot of dogs that are not registered. Both sides, but they're already on another level. You understand? So we have to try. The reason why I use St. Lucia as an example, because I know we have other people tuning in, is because we have to try to get ourselves at a standard as well. I mean, we have a few registered dogs here already, but what we doing? We have to try to grow that, get things on the next level. Yeah, it look like we're not going to be getting Eugene in today. We don't even allow them to get to the 6 weeks. Days after, we have people coming in and choosing pups. Same thing I was talking about. And that's a problem, And big up yourself, Ronnie, as well. That's the problem, You cheating yourself. It's not the breeder, It's not the breeder. I have to blame the buyers as well, I mean, especially people who have a good idea. It's not just the breeder. Because I'm selling dogs. You come to me, you tell me, hey, well, boy, look money for your dog now. I'm not going to tell you no. No, man, the breeder will not do that. So this is why we have programs like this where we can educate people and say, hey, don't just go at it like that. You can put down a deposit. And I believe strongly in putting down a deposit. And you have your pick in the litter. You understand? You can back out, and again, if you back out, there are deposits that are non-refundable. If it's before the litter comes out, like a small deposit that's non-refundable, but it would go towards the next breeding. So maybe if by 8 weeks you feel like, okay, you had 5th pick in the litter, right? And you feel like, even if you're getting a slightly better price than everyone else because you have 5th pick, and you're feeling like, boy, I really feeling that dog, then you can back out. And then your deposit would go towards another litter with the same kennel, or maybe a kennel who's combined with the kennel that you're already dealing with. That's the levels we have to start getting on. You understand? Because at the end of the day, you're gonna have that dog for a long time. So you want to make sure that you're getting, your money's worth. So if you don't feel like you're getting your money's worth, then the breeder is already taking care of that dog up until 8 weeks, guys. So you don't expect to get a deposit of $500 back. That's already been used towards, getting the dogs to that specific stage that they at. You have shots to pay for. You have to take care of these dogs, take care of the mama as well. Make sure she's in good shape for the puppies. So all of these are expenses, which is why I believe in a deposit, a non-refundable deposit, as small as it may be, just to get the dogs on their way. But no hard feelings. Because the breeder is actually losing more than you, and you actually not losing. The breeder is losing more than you from having a guaranteed sale, well, a sale to, not having a sale and now having to market that pup all over again. Let's talk about complementary breeding, matching dogs with mates and improving the breed. To have a pick with a deposit, depends on written contract. So when you say matching dogs, with mates and improving the breed, one of the things that I first wanted to point out, I mean, right now we still kind of breeding, I won't breed my dogs to any female, you understand? To be honest. And I think a lot of breeders out there just breed any and every female, because they get in a deposit, a stud fee, or they know that they have someone that might want a dog for less, and they say, guy, you know what? I'll breed that dog and then I'll just take that puppy to give that person, That's where it starts. Especially I mean, if you have someone who just wants a pet, you know, and well, you're not going to get any flaws, you can look at the dog, and that kind of thing, then maybe, I still look kind of justified. But and then you want to give someone, but if that person is going to be breeding the dog, or if you know that person have an intention of breeding, just do it the right way. You understand? And make sure you're lining up your dog with something of quality. But improving the breed, one thing that I wanted to mention is that if when we start seeing those registered dogs coming in, those quality dogs coming in, and you can actually track them back. When we start getting these dogs, right? I mean, of course, guys are going to continue to breed and whatnot, and try to make their money, and they feed their dogs and whatnot. But when we start actually seeing those lines coming into St. Lucia, for example, one of the things that I will encourage, it will not, people are not going to be wanting to like spend a ton of money, and some people will. The key to making people see the value in the dog is educating them. You tell me, hey, well, I'm gonna buy a dog from you for what, $5,000, which is nothing. That's nothing for a bully, EC dollars, because you pay 5,000 US dollars for a bully and upwards. So if you're going to be paying 5,000 EC dollars or 6,000 EC dollars, don't cry for it if you know you're going to get the quality. And now you have the understanding that if you go ahead and breed that dog later down the line, then you can possibly, to get 10 times the return. You understand? So that's the type of education that people need, to see the value in the dogs, because a lot of people just don't understand the value of having a purebred American bully papered up. You understand? One of the problems is the kennel's blindness. A lot of guys can look at the dog and see its fault. Yes, kennel blindness. Yeah, that is very true, Vinton. That's very true, because people want to sell their dogs. That's one of the things. And that's the guys who are in it just for the money, not necessarily better in the breed. Because if you look at me, like I have my boy Smoke right now, and one of the first things if you track back one of my first videos, are like, hey man, the guy has a little bit of easty westy. Now I know it's mainly because of the tiles, but then again, I can never surely know that until I get that DNA test, to kind of show. But based on my research on his line, his family, and tracking him back, he's the only one, with that east-west. And like I told you, like he was on the tiles, but I did go about saying, hey, well, Smoke does have a little east-west, if you really look at him, sometimes when he stands, you can see it, but I took him off the tiles for a while, and he's kind of improving, but he already grows so much, so it's not something that you can just fix at that point. But yeah, kennel blindness is one thing. But going back to what I was saying, back to Ronnie, when we start getting those lines in, we have to, if someone is not capable or not willing, but you have a good kennel or another good breeder that you can say, hey bro, let's do this together, let's work together. I'm going to give you the dog at half price. You co-own the dog. So you don't walk away with nothing. You can co-own the dog. You can say, hey, I'm going to give you the dog at half price. But on that first litter we put down, you come back to my kennel, and we put that back to one of our registered dogs. And then we have a registered litter coming out. And then, we split the pups half, not necessarily like a 2-pup this deal, because, you still owe me. You understand? And then we grow from there, and then now you have your dog after you finish with your agreement. So agreements come into play. I'm just giving one example, but that's one way that it can work. You see where I'm coming from, guys? So that's just one example. What's your view on, okay, one of the problems, okay, what's your view on breeding pocket to XL or standard? Well, to be honest, I never thought of really pocket to XL. I think that's a little bit overboard, to be honest. I think if you really just look at these dogs, you see a major difference. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a logical decision, pocket to XL. I think, standard to pocket, standard to XL, classic to XL, classic to pocket, classic can work with any dog. But jumping standard and classic, and and going straight to XL from pocket. I don't. I mean, I'm not. It's up to you, right? But I don't really forward it. One of the things, guys, that we realize, the XL, you can sometimes at the beginning you kind of see like a slight high rate, but then as they grow, dogs start to fix themselves, and that's just something with XLs. It can start off like that, very slight, and then it as they grow, you would see an improvement. Pockets, I don't know if you see like them DAX lines, for example. When you look at these pockets, they have that slight higher rate, and the back has a dip going into the muscles, and you see that broad back opening up, and we don't look at it as a high rate because the dog is already so short. You cannot even really say, okay, that's a high rate, because the muscle on that dog and the way it's opened up, and because it's so short and it's broad. It's not that it's broader than an XL. It could be, but it's not that it's broader. But the fact that the XL is taller, you cannot really you cannot compare the two. When you cannot really, I don't want to say compare the two, but you can see it more on the pocket, right? So it kind of cancels off the high rate, but the pocket actually, for most cases, has a slight high rate. Now, when you breed them two dogs together, you can possibly get a dog with high rate, and I've seen it. When you breed an XL and a pocket, you can get a dog with a high rate that really, I mean, if it take too much on one side and it take too much on this side, and you have a tall dog but it get the high rate, from the pocket, these things can happen. But then if you have a pocket to pocket, sometimes you don't even realize it because of the structure of the dog, and that's how it's built, and that's how it's supposed to be. If you breed XL to XL, eventually you'll see that start to fix itself as they go up, because that's how it's supposed to be. When you start mixing up, you skip in a standard and you go straight to that. I really, it's not my thing. If you feel like you can make it work, then good luck on that. Yeah, well, I'm not against, I'm not against people's opinion, and what they can do or what they think they can do. But for me, you asking me my opinion, that's not it for me. Yeah, not it for me. And going back to bet, and one of the main thing I want to touch on is better in the breed standard here, guys. And that's one of the ways we can start it. The point that I made earlier, about getting the registered dogs, and the moment we have them, try to leech off of them. I think one of the problems that I saw was we not registering, the registered dogs that we have, and not getting the litters registered. I think that was a mess up in itself. That's just my opinion. But yeah, any other question, guys? We had a good little session. It's at about 42 minutes right now. If we have no other questions, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. It's the first one. It's the first one that we're doing right now. I know a lot of the questions that we asked today, I'm not sure if you guys are satisfied. I know I kind of touched halfway on pretty much each question, trying to make sure that I got to the next question. Of course, guys, we got the Bloodline supplements here, so you can always check it out. Let's see any other questions here. But why though you are reducing consistency? Is that Rohan, is that a response to Tech Dan or something that I said? What about leftover food? Hazel Clark. Welcome, Hazel Clark, by the way. Leftover food. Okay, one thing that like my brothers see me doing that, and then they're like, "Oh, you just wasting food." You see, with the raw guy, with the kibble, you have dry kibble. I don't consider that left. Like the dry kibble can stay for a little while. You have it in a bag for a while. So it's not like I don't mean like you can leave dry kibble for days. But a dry kibble can stay in a bowl for an entire day, and it would be fine. As long as you don't mix it with anything else, right? But if you're gonna feed raw, for me, if I'm feeding my dogs raw, if they cannot eat that raw meat within 2 to 3 hours, like if they cannot clear that bowl, I get rid of it. That's just me. That's something that holds a lot of bacteria. You understand? So raw meat is something like your dog have to like it. You cannot just give dog raw meat and then feel like you will leave raw meat in a plate there. That starts smelling. You have organ meat in that. If the buff diet, you have organ meats there as well. That's gonna start smelling and stuff within a day, and that's going to get your dog sick. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because if you're gonna be doing buff diet, guys, your dog have to clean that plate. Find a way where your dog have to clean that plate. Don't allow meat to stay. When you say leftover food, I'm thinking that you're talking about like people. Maybe another thing you could be talking about is like when you eat food, like people eat their food at their home and then they have their bones and stuff in their plate and then they want to throw it for their dogs and stuff. I don't do that. I mean, growing up is something that was done a lot. I see being done a lot, but that's not my thing. I don't believe in that. Especially cooked bones and stuff. I don't believe in that too much. When I feed my dog raw meat, or if I cook meat for my dogs, I don't have not. You never see a drumstick in cooked meat for my dog. You understand? I do. I use like the cartilage, the breastbone cartilage. From that, the cartilage and the breastbone, softer bones, and like backs, chicken backs, that's softer bones as well, but the backs come with a lot of fat as well. So I've never used backs, on my dogs that I currently have. I've used it in the past though, but the dogs that I currently have now, with the knowledge that I have right now, I'm not against it. But the fat content, if anyone who's here knows me, like if you know me, you know that I try to get, I'm aiming for classic, that classic look. So I avoid fat. I know a lot of fellas like them bulky dogs that put them and stuff, walking around. But I try to avoid that. For me, just like the women say they don't like to be. I was watching something last night with my girlfriend and stuff, and I was listening to this girl say, hey, I don't mind the weight, but I don't like it to jiggle. That's just like me. I don't mind my dog looking nice and tough and stuff, but you see the jiggle, the extra meat, I don't like it. So leftover food equals rats, which equal disease. Exactly. And that's the same thing I'm talking about. Like, make sure your dog play in that bowl. I want to build my kennel in a way where I cannot have the rats. I know concrete can have its flaws, but I want to do concrete flooring, plaster around it, so you have no rats climbing in there, no connection, no lines to it, so no rat access and nothing like that. But another thing, guys, you have to look out for, if you have birds, these little birds, they come out and they start eating the rice and stuff. If they lay waste in that bowl and the dog consumes that can be very poisonous, and that could actually kill your dog. So I experienced that before. I had a pig pen, and that's a big thing. I had a full-fledged pig pen before, which is why I know a lot about these things. And so you have to look out for that as well. Yeah, great to know. Yeah, but stay away from the leftover foods. And if you have like food from after you eat and stuff, and you do that kind of thing, like just try to avoid, like the rubbish. Just get it out. And if you just put in some food on the side for your dog, put some food on the side for your dog, and get rid of whatever is left. Okay. A litter will be inconsistent, but possibly. Well, I think Tekdan and Rohan, kind of have a little conversation still on, breeding the XL to the pocket, which is good. But yeah, I mean, you guys got my take on that. So, any other question, guys, before we end this one? I just trying to see if there's anything else that we missed out on. But I was just about to say before we leave, guys, that we had the Bully Pro, the Bloodline supplements, the goat milk. Those of you know about goat milk, it's a good milk replacer, for puppies. I use it on big dogs as well, because it's very high in, lactose, so it allows, that bowel to move freely. The Bully Pro is pretty much packed with every single amino acid, especially the essential amino acids that the dogs are not able to provide for themselves. For the vegans out there, one thing I didn't point out before, if you're vegan and you kind of have that thing, for meat and whatnot, and trying to avoid that. But the dogs actually require a heavy source of protein, and most of the kibble you're going to use will include meat. Bully Pro is a good way to go. It's packed with 70% protein. It's not that it's not animal, but it's insects, and they have a shorter lifespan, so that could kind of help your build, as far as your conscience, on the animal aspect of things. Bully Pro will be a good way to go with something that has a very short lifespan, so that we're really not taking away from them. It's kind of like the end of the lifespan that Bully Pro is being created using insect protein itself, by the insects. So Bully Pro, not to go too much into price because about the restrictions on social media and whatnot. I don't think we should have a problem on YouTube though. The Bully Pro is currently, I've had a sale going on since I started it in August, and we're into September right now. The fact that we have Labor Day coming up and whatnot, the Bully Pro and all of the products, I'm maintaining the same sale prices that I have going on right now until the end of September because of, the Labor Day week coming. And so Bully Pro is at 75 EC. The goat milk is at 50 EC. And the Omega 369 Plus is also at 50 EC. So look out for that, guys. I posted this on my video earlier. I really want to touch base on this because as much as the Bully Pro is kind of like my biggest accomplishment here, because it's my product, I created it myself, but did a lot of research from, other large brands like Purina, for example, who's currently going into insect protein in their dog food. So I'm trying to hit the market very early. But the Omega 369, guys, is very important. If you do your research, the dogs require, I want to stress on that, the dogs require 175 to 100 milligrams of fish oils daily. That's something that the body requires to help build help build up the immune system, help the brain work, and also give you a very active dog. If you look at any of these brands on the shelf, maximum most times you'd get 1,200 milligrams. Doesn't give you any, it's not made for dogs, it's not advertised for dogs, so you can't really follow any instructions, and that's where this comes in. 2,500 milligrams, so you're looking at a 50-pound dog there with one capsule. So whereas you buy something with 100 and there are some brands out there with 120 mgs, and the more popular brands that I know people use with dogs at 120 mgs a capsule with 120 capsules in it, and thinking like, hey, well, I'm getting more for less. You're really spending more because you would have to get at least sometimes 20 of these capsules in, so to actually get what the dogs require. So the Omega 369, guys, very important. Also, I invite you guys to do your research on the fatty acids, EPA, DHA. You just Google it and give me a call. Pocket 2 Excel, we still in that good session. Leftover food, blah, blah, blah. Rohan. Okay. Yeah. You're going a little, so we see Tech Dan going a little in depth, going into the micros to standard as well. So yeah, man, really entertaining topic you guys have there. But yeah, man, I was just going to talk about the products for a little while, but maybe we might leave that for another session. We're getting closer to the hour mark. I'd like to thank everyone for joining in. You could always check out the Bloodline Kennel Club channel, YouTube channel, which we're on right now. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, so next time we're doing one of these videos, we can always touch base on that. Also, guys, on the comments, when we end this session, if we have any things that you want us to touch on, maybe we can prepare for it as well. You could always put it in the comments, or you can post it, on the Bloodline page, on Facebook or Instagram. You can always link up as well, and we can take it from there. But really and truly, guys, like I genuinely want to help, the bully community, and help this grow, making a lot of moves. I haven't made a dollar off of dogs, throughout the entire, year and a half roughly that I've started my kennel, so I'm just growing. So I'm trying to make things grow here. And trust me, when I say I haven't made a dollar, guys, I've I've spent, I can't even count, but I've been spending, and I have some surprises for you guys. I have some good stuff that you guys are gonna like. We'll be unveiling that. If you guys stick with the channel, you'll be seeing some more stuff from me. We brought Ivor the Mull in. The Mull is one of those show dogs. People love to see them. Very unique colors in there. So it's a very high demand right now in the bully world. So I think, it was key for maybe someone responsible to bring it in, which is why I took it on my own to bring in Ivor. And because that specific genetic is something that we have to kind of be, very wary about. And I want to educate as I go along with Ivor. If anyone else is looking into, going into the mills and stuff, or maybe even trying to do their own thing and, bring something down, I would just want to say to you to be mindful of the breed itself. Be careful, educate your buyers. Don't just sell mill dogs to anyone. And make sure you're educating people, especially if this breed, this type of bully. And yes, guys, I appreciate you guys tuning in today. Okay, guys, so I hate to cut you guys off. I know the topic going on nice here, but I like to thank you guys for all tuning in, and big up yourself, everyone who tuned in today. We just starting off, but the viewers were great, for the first one. So hopefully we can grow into a bigger session. Maybe we can actually get some people to come in, maybe some of the more experienced people, even more experienced than myself, because even in the comments here, we have people who are more experienced, who can also latch into some of these videos and be part of the screen sharing and answer some questions as well. Okay, guys, have a good one. BKC, we out. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and one love. Bless.